Hi, I'm Kerry from eSpares, and in this video I'm going to show you how to replace the on-off switch on your Karcher pressure washer. You will know the on-off switch is broken if it just simply won't turn on. Fortunately, this is something that you can do at home without needing to call a repair professional. However, it's important to note that you can't just buy an on-off switch separately, as it comes as part of the electrical assembly inside. Instead, you'll need to replace the electrical assembly inside the pressure washer. So let's take a look. In this video, we're going to be using the Karcher K4 pressure washer. To replace the electrical assembly, you will need a few tools at hand. These tools are a small flat blade screwdriver, a pair of pin nose pliers, a Torx T15 screwdriver, a Torx T20 screwdriver, and a H6 socket. However, if you don't have a H6 socket, you can use a Torx T40 socket in place of one instead. Of course, you will also need a new electrical assembly, so we'll include a link to where you can buy one in the description below. And remember, safety first. Always make sure you switch off your appliance and unplug it from the mains before carrying out any work. First, you will need to unscrew the small black water inlet connection. This is located here at the bottom of the front area of the casing. Then, using your Torx T15 screwdriver, remove the 8 screws, 6 from the back of the pressure washer and 2 underneath of the base. Let's start with the screws at the back. Now for the 2 at the base. Next, you'll need to remove the 2 black plastic lugs at the bottom of the pressure washer. First, use your small flat blade screwdriver to carefully wedge each one out. Then use a pair of your pin nose pliers to pry each lug all the way through. These will probably be quite stiff, so take your time and be careful not to damage them while you do it. Then the tool carrier can be removed like so. Now the outer casing can be lifted away from the bottom of the chassis. Place your hands comfortably either side so that you can wiggle it free from the water inlet valve. However, the casing will not be fully disconnected just yet, as it will still be connected by the soap dispenser hose on the inner side and the mains cable too. Now unclip the soap dispenser hose by pulling it free of the small inner clip. Then pull the mains cable from out of the outer casing clip that holds it in place like so. Now you can fully disconnect the soap dispenser hose by pulling it off the small soap feed pipe. This is the pipe that's positioned on the pump housing at the top of the motor inside the pressure washer. The outer casing will now be fully disconnected. Now we're going to remove the control knob, so it helps with reassembly later. To do this, just squeeze the 3 clips in and remove the knob like so. For this next part, it might be a good idea to pop on some safety gloves. Now, next you need to remove the motor retaining clip using your flathead screwdriver. Now you can go ahead and remove the motor. However, you will need a second person to help you do this. With one person holding the pressure washer chassis firmly, the other person needs to work the motor unit off the pump housing by pulling it back towards them, then lift the motor away. When removing these bolts, you don't want to unscrew them fully one at a time. Instead, take turns to unscrew each bolt little by little so that you gradually loosen them all together. Otherwise, if you just fully unscrew one bolt before moving on to the next ones, it will make the others tighter and more difficult to unscrew. Once unscrewed, you can now separate the pump from the top of the motor. Now you need to remove the electrical assembly from off the motor. To do this, use your Torx T20 screwdriver to unscrew the earth screw that's holding the main earth wire to the motor. You can then pull the electrical assembly off the motor by disconnecting the mains connection plug here. When you remove the electrical assembly, a small black gasket will fall off the assembly. Keep this at hand as you will need to refit it later. Now it's time to fit your new electrical assembly with on-off switch included. But before you buy your electrical assembly, you need to make sure that you know your appliance model number. This will ensure that you get the correct part for your pressure washer. Now, if you're not sure what your model number is or where to find it, then check out our video on finding your pressure washer model number here. Now you need to connect the electrical assembly to the motor. To connect the assembly, first you'll need to reconnect the main connection plug. This plug needs to refit correctly, so let's take a closer look. On the part of the plug connected to the motor, look carefully and you can see a slot on one side and a groove on the other. Then look carefully into the part of the plug connected to the electrical assembly. You will also see a slot on one side and a groove on the other. When reconnecting the two parts of the plug, make sure the slot and the grooves fit in the opposite sides. Then you need to refit the small black gasket onto your electrical assembly. Make sure the flat side is closest to the plug. Now you can refit your electrical assembly on top of the motor. You need to slot the plug into the side here and make sure the small black gasket doesn't come off again. The gasket will need to stay in position as it belongs between the electrical assembly and the two location pins on the motor here. Next, you'll need to refit the pump assembly on top of the motor. With one hand holding your electrical assembly in place, put the pump on top and make sure that the internal water feed pipe on the side is lined up with the opening of the motor. Once in position, you need to screw the 4 bolts back into place by either using your H6 socket or a Torx T40. Now remember to do each screw a little bit at a time, working in a circle as before when removed. This may take some time, so don't worry. Take your time to make sure that they're in place. Remember, don't stop until all bolts are firmly tightened. Then you can screw the earth wire back onto the motor by using your Torx T20 screwdriver. To fit the motor back into the pressure washer, you will again need a second person. With one person holding the pressure washer chassis, the other person will need to work the motor onto the pump housing. Like so. Then slot your circlip back into place on the pump housing above the motor. With the motor unit now in place, you can go ahead and reassemble the rest of your pressure washer. Now you can refit the soap dispenser hose to the small soap feed pipe above the motor. Then you can reconnect the mains cable to its clip like so. Then you can also clip the soap dispenser hose back onto the small inner clip. Now you can refit the outer casing. When you do this, make sure the 2 black tabs at the bottom go outside the casing. Otherwise, if they're inside, the casing just won't fit properly. Also, you need to align the water outlet and the mains cable with the holes in the outer casing either side. Now, using your Torx T15 screwdriver, refit all 8 screws that you removed earlier to secure the outer casing in place. Now don't forget, your last 2 screws go at the bottom of the pressure washer. Pop the tool caddy back into place. Then push the 2 black lugs back into place at the bottom of the pressure washer. Remember to align the flat sides so that they can lock into place. Finally, you can fit the control knob. You will be able to see the control switch through the control knob opening, so make sure it's lined up with the slot on the control knob. Then screw the small black water inlet hose connection into place at the bottom of the front of the pressure washer. And there you have it, how to replace the electrical assembly on a Karcher pressure washer. If you have any other issues with your pressure washer, then don't worry, we're here to help. We have a full playlist of videos on diagnosing and fixing common pressure washer faults. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe for appliance repairs, maintenance guides and all things e-spares. Thanks for watching.